everyone, so today is the video I've probably dreaded doing the absolute most, and I'm going to put on a full face of the worst makeup I have tried in 2024. I'm going to apply them differently. I have actually found different ways of using them, so we can see at the end if I've changed my mind. So let's hope that these products can redeem themselves, but maybe not. I think I'm going to need help to make this one work, you know. But anyway, I would say I can't wait to get started, but I'm not sure I think I could wait actually. But anyway, let's get straight into this. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Hannah. I'm 47, not a professional, just somebody who loves makeup and beauty. And here on my channel, I review the latest products and I show you my favourite looks and occasionally my not so favourite looks. And I upload here regularly and give you any beauty news you might be interested in. So if you think you'd enjoy this, please do hit the subscribe button. It's super helpful to my channel. And if you're already subscribed, welcome back. I really appreciate you returning to my channel. And my skin tones, I've got fair to light skin with neutral/cool undertones, and I've got blue eyes. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's get straight into this video. So I'm going to start with two that I won't apply, but I thought I have to give them a mention. So the worst primer I've tried all year, by an absolute mile actually, is this one from Onesize, the Oil Sucker. And the reason I'm not going to show you this today is because nothing works on top of this, absolutely nothing. So I won't get anywhere with anything if I use this one. I do have another primer that I wasn't impressed with this year, so this is the worst one for me. Now, if you have oilier skin, maybe this would be your absolute dream. I've heard a lot of people really like this, so I'm not writing off the product. I do have predominantly dry skin, but for me, this wasn't really a dry skin issue. It just seemed to argue with every single thing I put on top of it. I tried it with a number of foundations and different formulas, and it just paled and looked horrendous to the point where I had to take everything off and start again. It wasn't even fixable. So I don't know whether it was just me or what. I don't know. I would love to hear if you've tried it, and if you have, you've got on with it. It would be good to hear how you've made this work for you, but for me, absolutely not. And the other one from exactly the same brand, so maybe it's something to do with this brand and my skin, was the Onesize, what's it called? Turn Up the Base Full Beat Foundation. Again, I couldn't make this one work. I tried so many different ways, without that primer, with that primer. And with other primers, without other primers. I tried everything to try and make this work, and all it ever did was cake. It was so bad. It was pretty much as bad as the primer. I just had to keep removing it. It was just, for me, the worst one I've reviewed all year, the worst one I've tested. And I've tested ones for oily skin, dry skin. I've tested every variety of foundation. This is the one I had the most problems with, and I just couldn't find a fix for it. So I've completely given up on this one. So I know that, again, this is a favourite for some, but it must be something to do with our skin type, whether it's just that my skin's dry, like I said, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I know that this is popular, so I'm not going to say to you, don't try this. Please do look for other reviews from people who get on well with it, because I know a lot of people do. I know it gives really good full coverage, but for me, it was a disaster. So moving to a primer that was a fail for me but didn't destroy my makeup, so that's why I'm going to do this one, and that is the Huda Beauty, the Blur. So the reason this is a fail for me is as I apply this, and I'm going to do it just on this side today, I do see some blurring effect, and I know that Huda said to put quite a lot on, so I'm going to put a bit more than I did last time, so quite a lot just for one side of my face, and I'm going to give this, that feels so much though. Did you put that much? That does feel so much. Anyway, maybe not quite all of that, because I don't think I can even get that to go in. But Huda said to apply more, not less, and to leave it to set in for a few minutes. Sorry, my hair's getting right in the way there. And this basically does blur straight away. You do see some sort of blurring, but what I couldn't see every single time I used this was any difference on the side I didn't use it compared with the side I did. I tried this numerous times and I just could not see the difference without it. So I just didn't think it was necessary, to be honest. And this year has been the year where I've almost ditched most primers and pretty much moved to the Bobbi Brown Face Base or the Merit Great Skin, because those two really work well for me because they are just like moisturisers. Or skip both of those even and just go in with one of my favourite moisturisers. I don't like to use primers much anymore, but I did try this one, and I have worn primers like this many times in the past, and I have seen a little bit more blurring effect. This one was hyped so much for the blurring effect, and I just don't feel it does. So I'll get up a bit closer so you can see what I mean about a little bit blurring. This is where my texture shows up the most here, so you'll probably see straight away it does look a bit more blurred there compared to there. But before I get up close, I'm going to give this a few minutes, so I'll just go off camera and come back in 5 minutes. So here it is after 5 minutes. So if you look here around this side, can you see maybe under the lights here how my texture is a little bit less obvious and a bit more blurred? So on initial application, it looks very successful. But we will look at my face after I've applied all of my base and see if it's still blurred, because that's something I've never been able to spot at all. And even the blurring I can see is very minimal. So it has actually dried down quite nicely considering the amount I've put on. It's slightly tacky, but not too bad now. So the next thing I'm going to go in with, which is on my not enjoyed list, shall we say, and this one is a bit of a surprise really, because it's Makeup by Mario, and I have loved everything that's come from Makeup by Mario. I'm a massive fan. But this one, I did use it and probably didn't complain about it too much, but the more I used it off camera, the more I noticed that it was removing my makeup. It's just too watery, and I don't really feel that it's strong enough for underpainting, but that is what I'm going to do with it today. That's why I'm showing it to you now, because I think it's the only way for me to make this work. So I will try and build it up as much as I can. So the idea of underpainting is that you're basically putting too much on so that when you go in with your next layer, it'll become just the right amount. So I'll show you how this looks. It doesn't look terribly watery now, does it, when I do that? But honestly, it is very watery. So I've got this one in the shade Light. I'm going to take my Makeup by Mario F4 brush, and I'm not putting this one straight on my face. I'm going to take this in all the areas where I want bronze and contour today. So I'm not just going to do a contour line, even though this colour is pretty suitable as a sort of contour, I suppose. And applying it straight here without anything underneath works very well. This is the best way for this product to work. But that was one whole pump just there. And can you see how much pigment I've got from that entire pump? So you can imagine now when I go in with foundation and other products, how much that will disappear, which is why for me it's not the best as underpainting. It's also not quite as cool as it looks. You can see now as it goes on my forehead that it actually looks a little bit warm. And the Mario products that look cool, such as the face enhancing one, which I love for contour, and I use that one a lot, that one really does have a sort of true cool finish. This one looks pretty cool on the back of my hand, looks quite cool in here, but as I'm applying it, I think it looks very warm. So that's another thing. I'm now on my third full pump, so this is a huge amount. Obviously I do look a bit bonkers now, but that's, like I said, the whole point of underpainting is that you basically put too much so that it all works out in the end, and hopefully means I don't need bronzer. So we'll see if I can get away with that, because what I don't want to do is go back in with this afterwards on top of products, because like I said, it's just so watery. There's something about this, no matter how I apply it, even if I do it carefully like this, tapping it into the back of my hand, it just starts to move everything underneath and almost dilute things and break up the makeup. So it's just never worked very well for me like that. So you can see now it's applied extremely easily. I feel very bizarre at the moment, but anyway, let's just trust the whole process of underpainting, shall we? Let's go around the edges and soften them a tiny bit. But I will stop there. Actually, I'll put a little bit underneath my chin where I would normally put a bit of contour. So I'm really doing things very differently here. So I'm not expecting to love this look today, because normally I'd be going in with my favourite contour after I've applied foundation, so it would be a bit more obvious. I think when you see what I'm about to use next, we'll be pretty much going for more of a casual look from a base point of view today. So that is 3.5 pumps, because I added some underneath, so that's a huge amount of product. So if I was going to continue using this in the same way, I don't know if you can see there, I've hardly used this and I've already gone down quite a lot in the bottle and I've hardly used it, so that's another thing. I would whiz through this way too quickly. I can't stop looking at how hideous I look, but anyway, it will improve hopefully, but I am going in with products I don't like, so this could be such a bad day. So the next product, which again is better if it's used with underpainting, was this one, which is a bit of a surprise really, from Chanel. So this is the Illuminator product from Chanel, which launched early in the year, the Lumiere De L'Ocean. Now this is absolutely beautiful, but when I use it as a highlighter, which is how I want to use it, so whether it's how you're supposed to use it or not, that's how I want to use it. So when you see it swatched, it looks amazing. But if I use it as a highlight, as my last sort of finish on top of everything else, this looks so glittery, it's so over the top, it just looks dreadful, it really doesn't work. But lots of people said to me this wasn't intended to be put on top, it was intended to go underneath. And that is actually something I've done quite a few times this year, and it really does work. So this one has already redeemed itself. But I did actually put a video out saying that this was one big fail. And I'd still say it is a fail because I want it as a highlighter on top. But then again, I don't have anything this beautiful to do this with. So anyway, I mean, you can see the impact there. I'm putting this, and I'm not using a highlight brush, so I am being a bit more generous using a dense brush like this. This is the BK Beauty 109. Look at that. I mean, you can see why I think it's way, way, way too much if I use it as a last product. But this is actually going to be underneath everything. And that's how it works. It pops through because it's so effective and so impactful that it really does pop through. So hopefully you'll be able to see that at the end. So that's a lot of highlight there. I might put it into all the areas where I like a bit of highlight, so a bit down the nose and a bit above the Cupid's bow as well. Now for the really crazy part as far as I'm concerned. On top of my highlighty base, I'm going to try again something which was a massive fail for me, and that was the Unreal Skin foundation from Charlotte Tilbury. But I have made a change, and that change is I've gone up a few shades. I've gone about 2 shades up above my normal shade. And the reason I've done that is a lot of people said that the reason my shade was so glowy and like putting highlighter all over my face was because I was matching my tone, whereas if I go up a few levels and just use it really lightly, I should get a much better result. So when I tried it, I did apply it quite liberally because I was really trying to use it to correct redness and completely cover my face, which is probably not the intention of this. I would think of it more as a sort of highlighty skin tint or a brightening skin tint. You'll see now when it goes on. But also going up a shade apparently really helps. So the shade that I've picked, which is still not massively dark, but this one is shade 4 Fair. And I believe I went for 1 and 2 last time, so it's not a massive difference in tone here. And I'm now going to apply this a lot lighter than I did the first time. Now, keeping in mind how much of this bronze I've got all over my face, it's not really changing. There's not a huge difference between the shades, so you can see that it's quite a dark one. I'll show you how it looks on the back of my hand. It's definitely too warm for me, but anyway. Maybe I'm going to have a bit of a bronzed look today. And that's it. I'm not going to put any more than that. That's absolutely enough. And I have tried this once off camera. I'm using the Refa BO4. And I found that this worked quite nicely. Just doing this amount. So this is when I would never think of this foundation anyways giving coverage, because it doesn't. It gives a glow and it does correct redness. So around my nose, I remember thinking last time it was quite good at correcting redness. I'm really challenging the whole glowy situation here by putting the most glowy highlight ever underneath and then putting the most glowy foundation ever above. But we are trying the products that I've hated the most this year, so if I look hideous, then so be it. But let's hope that this eventually becomes something that I don't hate. Now I do think that the foundation has improved things slightly, but I'm still looking too brown actually, too warm. Let's just keep tapping away here and hopefully it'll blend out. I don't want to put more, but then I've got powder and concealer coming in next, so that's going to, well, when I show you the powder I'm going to use, I'm going to be glowing from the heavens. I really am. Lucky I'm going absolutely nowhere today. You'll be seeing this one after Christmas, but it's actually the 22nd of December when I'm filming this, and for the first time in my whole life I haven't wrapped one present, and normally I get it done in November. I've just been so busy. So me and my husband, the minute I finish filming, have a mammoth task in front of us. But if I look like this, only he will have to look at me. So now for concealer, which I desperately need. I need to try and balance this up now, so I'm hoping this won't be too warm. This is the Fenty Beauty concealer. But before I do that, actually, let me put on the product which helps this to work. So I've found that the Fenty concealer just doesn't work on me ever if I have no eye cream under here. That was the key for me with this. I literally said this is a total fail. It caked every single time I wore it. It looked hideous. I really wrote it off, and then I started applying double the amount of cream. So I basically put an eye cream on when I wake up, and then I go in with my Delilah, the Wake Up Radiant Eye Perfector, which has become an absolute saviour for me this year. So I put a little bit of this underneath the eyes, and as long as I've got something along those lines, especially this one though, this is my top one, but I think the key thing is that double eye cream. So as long as I've got plenty of moisture in this area, I do seem to avoid the caking. So let's hope that's still the case, because the last time I tested this to work was in the summer, and obviously my skin changes and becomes even more dry in the winter with the heating. So I'm going to go in fairly quickly while my skin is still sort of almost wet there, because that seems to be the best way with me. And this is called We Are Even Hydrating Long Wear Concealer, and I've got this in 160W it says. So that's the only one I bought. And I do tend to go for a warmer shade for under the eyes. That doesn't look too warm actually. I think that this might just be brightening enough to rescue me in these areas where I definitely need to introduce a little bit of brightness and break up this bronzy shade I've got underneath. Let's hope this is going to fix everything. If this doesn't blend out now and this all cakes up, then I am going to look really horrendous. So I've got my Rapha BO5 brush, which has become my #1 brush for concealer this year. Soon to be replaced by another number. Same brush, new number. I don't have it yet, so I can't remember the number. So far so good, you know. And this literally looked awful instantly. As soon as I pat it on top of cream like this, it doesn't. So it's quite a strange one, this. And I can even use my vitamin C eye cream and it seems to work with that as well. So I don't know why it was so bad. The only explanation I've got for the severe caking with this was literally lack of hydration. So if you've got concealers in your collection that have done that with you, that's how I would advise getting around it, by going in with lots of hydration. I mean, the Delilah product is the one I'd recommend the most. It's been such a winner for me. Look there in the corner of the eye. This is the area here where I get the most caking, and at the moment I cannot see any caking. I would say that though it hasn't corrected redness, and I haven't put any corrector on today. I would put a little bit, not redness, darkness, sorry. I would normally put a bit of corrector here, but I didn't want to do that today just in case that caused the caking with the Fenty, because I thought that wouldn't be very fair. I'll go in now with the 109. So this is blending out very nicely. The chin is a very difficult area for me, and it's gone on very nicely. I mean, I do feel very moisturised. I think I've got my skincare underneath, and using the Mario, which is so watery underneath, and then maybe not so much the Charlotte Tilbury, but the Charlotte Tilbury is quite a moisturising foundation, so my skin feels very, very moisturised. And that sat beautifully on my chin actually. It just shows, I think, that using so much moisture underneath really can change the way that these products work. So now, having quite liberally applied the concealer, I'm starting to feel like the underpainting is starting to work. So can I apply this enough to think I don't need bronzer, because I still feel a little bit orangey up here. Go in with the foundation brush and just sort of take this concealer, what's left of it, just over the bronzer again. I think that is actually working. So the underpainting has worked. So I think the bronzer underneath, definitely too warm, but I think now I've added everything else, it's worked. So I don't need bronzer, I don't need contour. I think I've got away with that. I do think that the Unreal Skin has worked very nicely. And you can see now that I've lost a lot of the sparkle from that highlighter by adding those things on top. So I've just got a bit of a shine. And you just pick up during the day a little bit of glitter, a tiny bit actually. It really does go. I feel like it's almost gone too much there. Can you even see that highlighter now? I think what I'll do is before I powder, because I always add my highlighter on top of powder, I think I'll add a little bit more of the Chanel Lumiere here, just a tiny bit now. So it's under powder, because it is missing a little bit. And then I have put quite a lot of product there, I suppose. So that's brought that back. Maybe that's the answer. Not underneath everything, just underneath powder. So anyway, I'm feeling a little bit less dreadful now. So before we go in with powder, it's going to be cream, or rather liquid blush next. So I don't know how this will go, because the one that has been a fail for me this year is the YSL, and I know that this is super popular with lots of people, but for me this one disturbs my makeup and breaks my makeup up. So now I finally got my face looking reasonable and all the products that are so tricky are working. This could be my absolute nightmare now. But I'm going to put it on the back of my hand. I know for sure that dotting this one on is a no-no for me, which makes it a bit of a fail in my book, because all of the ones I've tried that I've loved, such as the Armani Luminous Silk, which I love, they don't have that issue. I can dot them on and they blend out really nicely. Anyway, the shade I've got here is number 66, and it is quite a bright pink, so it does need to be really blended out, I think, so I don't want much of this. So I'm blending this on the back of my hand. I'm taking the 109 brush and applying it this way, hoping that this won't break things up. And I think with this, I don't know, I was going to say it's watery like the Mario one, but it isn't actually. It isn't too watery. Very pigmented, so I don't need much at all. In fact, because I'm trying to make this quite a light look, I wouldn't want to go much more than that. But that hasn't broken up my makeup. So maybe the reason I always had problems with it was because I was applying it directly. Blending out on the back of my hand is making a big difference. And we'll see how this is looking after powdering down, and maybe I'll try a tiny bit on top of powder. This is so pigmented, it needs to be a tiny amount. So that's another thing with the Armani, it's not quite as pigmented, so you don't get into trouble with it quite as quickly. This one is too pigmented for me. So it's workable, but some people might love the fact that it's too pigmented, but for me personally, I don't. So I seem to have managed to have got more on this side than the other. Fabulous. Just go around with my foundation brush and try and calm that down a little. I don't think it's lifting anything, and I can still see the highlighter. So that's the best way for me to apply this one. Like I said, it's just too much pigment. And why can't I just paint it straight on my face like I do with everything else? But I can't say it's a terrible product. It's not a massive fail. It's just not a favourite. So it's a mini fail really, because that's worked out really nicely. So now for powder, and I never thought I would say this in a fail video, but it's the Givenchy Prisme Libre, the new formula. And I am looking so shiny, and I've got so many highlighty products on. I'm now about to apply the new formula, which is packed full of brightening, highlighting powder, which is why it's such a disaster. But anyway, I'm hoping that the reason we were so horrified by this was because the other one was the best on the planet, and this one just brightens too much. But maybe compared with many others, it's still very good. I don't know. I'm just hoping I won't really hate this. So here it is in the pan, much more clumpy, the talc-free version, less sort of finely milled, I think. So I'm going to start with under the eyes. Actually, before I set it, let me do a close-up of my face so we can see what you think about the Huda Beauty filter. Remember how this area here is where I'm wearing it, and that's where it was more blurred. At the moment, these very glowy products are highlighting my texture quite a lot. Can you see any improvement on this side compared with this side? For me, I can see absolutely zero difference, zero. My texture is standing out exactly the same, I think, and that's why it's a fail. So it's still a fail, unfortunately. So if you know this powder from Givenchy, it's always been so brilliant because you can use it underneath the eyes and all over the face, and it just, this shade in particular is brightening, it's balancing with your skin tone, it helps to correct redness. It is the most perfect shade, the most perfect powder, until they added this brightening powder into this, which they took the talc out and they added a brightening powder so that it can actually emphasize. Now I've still avoided putting it into the corner here, but anyway, I'm going to do it because this is the area here which is particularly dreadful when it comes to highlighting lines. Looking at it from a distance, it looks absolutely fine, but comparing it to the original, it does give that sort of highlighty glow, and I can see my lines underneath here in a way that I just couldn't with the original. So this still has to be a fail, but I think that maybe I'm very biased towards the original, so if I was reviewing this as a new powder, I would probably be saying this is quite a good powder. I just think we're very harsh on this one because the original was so good, and it's such a disappointment to so many of us that it was changed. And the last thing you want a powder to do, especially when you've got mature skin like me, is for it to emphasize lines. It's supposed to blur. So at the moment this is looking okay, but I am still calling this a fail. So I'll go in now and set the rest of my face with a fairly light cover because I don't want to lose the underpainting I did earlier of the bronze and the blush. I want them to stand out still. I think maybe because I've got such shiny products underneath that even the shine of the Givenchy is still less, so it's actually doing quite a good job of taking the shine away still, which again shows that the actual amount of shiny brightening powder isn't terrible. I think it's probably worse when you do things like I do and you put your makeup on underneath spotlights and you see yourself in a way that most people probably wouldn't. So if you have bought this powder thinking it'll be the same as the previous one, don't be too disappointed, because you can see now that it really doesn't look that bad. I look at it very closely underneath these spotlights. So that is my whole face set now, and if I was looking at another powder, this would not be a fail like I said, but because of the original formula of Givenchy, it's still a fail, unfortunately. So now probably for the biggest mission I've got on my hands today, for the worst eyeshadow I tried this year, and I honestly don't know how I'm going to make this one work. And this is the one from the Chanel autumn release. So this is the libre ombre in 394 Divination. So I tried to use all the colours. I think maybe the solution here is to skip the mustard, because that's the shade that gave me, I just can't. I have to make this work. I'm thinking, can I show you that this can work if I use all the colours? But the minute I add that shade with my skin tone, I look like I've got a bruise. So I'm going to just skip that shade and hopefully that will make this work. So I'm going to use my Rapha one and go into the lighter of the purple. So this is more of a sort of lilac, and I'll take this into my sort of transition. I'm not going to do a very fussy look. I'm just going to see if I can make these colours work. I do remember quite liking the green, so I'm going to take the green all over. And you know, maybe I could introduce that Chanel highlighter at the end to really save it. Or is that cheating? Because I'm showing you whether or not these work. Anyway, let's see how I feel. And I also remember finding this purple quite hard to blend. So anyway, I'm going to now go in with the Refa Shodo 03. Take a little bit. Now I didn't have this brush when I was reviewing this, and this brush has been so good at helping me work with dark powders. So tapping this here into the outer V, and that's blended nicely. Honestly, this brush is just magic, it really is. If you buy one brush this year, I recommend that it be this one. Because I'm just tapping this and it just goes straight in. And I know it didn't do that last time. I know it didn't. In fact, I tried this twice and it was much harder to blend out. I'm going to be very light-handed and I'm not going to apply too much because I don't want to start backtracking and saying that it's not blending. Because now as I'm taking it out, it's not coming with me quite as nicely as it could. Anyway, that's blended out pretty well, let's be fair. So I'll do the same on this side, so it's going to be quite a light wash of purple in the outer V here. To be fair, Chanel is not massively pigmented, generally, is it? They're not supposed to be highly pigmented shadows. So this sort of level of purple is probably as much as you'd expect. And I'm taking this on the Refa number 3, which is a bit more dense because it's got that more dense tip compared to the Shodo brush. And that might give me a bit more of a pop of purple underneath. You can see that it's just a lot darker using this brush. And seeing as it's so much darker using this brush, I'm going to take it as a sort of liner across the lid before I go in with that green, so a sort of soft wash of purple liner there. Now I know one of the ways that Chanel showed to use that mustard was for a pop of light there, but I'm very loath to do it because I don't know. Let me think. I'm going to go in with the green next, which I'm using the Shodo 00, the flatter Shodo now, and I'm going to take it all over the lid. I'm taking a bit of that green on the tip of this brush, taking it slightly above the crease there, bringing it up to meet the purple. So I'm still not loving this colour combination, but I do think that just these two together, well, they're okay. It's just I don't like them. They're just okay. I don't think anything can make me like these colours. I think maybe a slightly less deep green might have been nicer. It's got real Halloween vibes, this one, hasn't it? I mean, it did launch for the autumn, so maybe that's the intention of these colours, but when I avoid the mustard, it's definitely better. A part of me wants to show you the mustard in the inner corner, so maybe I'll just do it on one eye, but I know that I don't like it, so oh, I'm gonna look so bad today. So I'm taking it into the inner corner and just slightly up to meet the green there, and then you'll have this lovely bruise effect, which I did promise myself I wasn't going to do. See, yellow in the inner corner is just a disaster. No, 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 no. That's awful. I'm actually going to try and remove that a bit with my finger. No two ways about it. Introducing the mustard ruins this look, and it's already a pretty average look, let's be honest. I think what I'll do is I'll go in with the lilac, which is the better choice for inner corner. I can still see a bit of that mustard there, but I'm hoping this lilac will have that brightening effect that I actually want for my inner corner. That's a bit better. I'll do the same under the brow, hoping it'll work. So on this side there's zero mustard going into the inner corner, so you're just seeing pure lilac. It is a bit more brightening on that side. But can you see, even with that Shodo brush, the purple just still doesn't look quite right blended out. I don't know, I don't like the quality of these, I don't like the colour of these. This is still one massive fail for me, I really don't like it. So if you've got a palette like this that you thought you'd love and you hate, like I do, the only thing I would do is jazz it up with a highlight. So why not go for the most glowy highlight on the planet and try this one. Now this does have that sort of pinky shift. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm trying to stick with products that are in my fail list. Is this going to rescue this look or not? Or is it just going to be another clash of colours? Well, you can see the sort of hint of blue in it from there. It definitely has a blue shift as well, doesn't it? And that doesn't go with the green. It's made it a bit more interesting, but I don't know. It's still hideous. I don't have any eyeliners that I haven't enjoyed or mascaras, so I'll go off camera, I'll both of those, and hopefully that will rescue this. I'll put a bit of brown liner on and I will use a brown mascara and be back to show you the final look. So I've gone in with some brown liner and mascara and it looks a little bit better, but still I don't like this. And now mostly you can see the highlighter, which probably improved it, but there's so much better. There's so many better quads out there from Chanel and other brands. It's just not one I like, so it's not about to win me over, that one. So before I move to lips, which is the last thing on this list, I'm going to put a little bit more of this YSL. I need a tiny amount of this because it is so pigmented, so I'm actually buffing it out on my hand before I even put the brush on it. So I'm going to use the same brush, the 109, which still has a tiny bit of the blush on, and pick it up off my hand and tap a little bit on top. So see if it's taking up the powder or if applying it like this works. But for me it's a lot of effort. Blending it out on your hand, then buffing it into the brush when that's worked very nicely actually. I shouldn't have to do those things in my opinion, because the other ones I've tried this year didn't require me to do it, but having done it on top of powder, I think that looks gorgeous actually. So there we go. A fail in the respect of being easy, but not a fail in the way it actually looked when it's applied this way. So when it came to lips, I didn't really have any big fails this year, and the one I've written down as a fail was the RMS lip oils, but I cannot for the life of me find them anywhere. Since trying them, I didn't like them, and I probably just put them away somewhere. I don't know where. They're not on my desk, they're not in any of my drawers that I can find, so this is my second fail next to that. I've never really enjoyed this since I got it. This is the new one from Natasha Denona, the Hygen. It's called Tinted Lip Mask, and the reason I don't like this is because it is just so gloopy. You can see straight away how it's already leaking into the lid and all around the top. And if I show you this on the back of my hand, it is just the most gloopy formula. It's too gloopy. I quite like the colour. Anyway, I'll blend it out on the back of my hand a bit with the actual applicator before putting it on my lips, because if you just put it straight on, you get that big gloopy mass on your lips. So that definitely seems to work. Applying it this way gives you a light wash of colour, but maybe not enough hydration. I'd like to show you what I mean really. I'll take a little bit more here and put it on now, and is just way too much, that tiny little bit, and it starts to become difficult to control, and it just feels too gloopy. And it's sliding outside of my lips a little bit already. Now I tried to use this as a sort of everyday product that I could use to top up my sort of daily hydration, and I just find I get in such a mess. I can't. I need a mirror. For me, a tinted lip mask, or a lip mask generally, should be something I can apply very easily and not need to check in a mirror. And also it transfers so quickly, it doesn't last. So now I've just tidied that up, it looks fine and the hydration feels good. So it's not a massive fail. I just really haven't wanted to reach for this. So it's just an okay product. Can be applied, can be managed, but shouldn't be that tricky in my opinion. So I do now have an extremely glowy face. I think it is way too glowy, and I'm not going to pin that on the Unreal foundation, even though that is giving me a bit of a glow, because we need to remember everything else that I've used today, starting with that Mario. But I do feel like my texture up here right now is really being emphasised. So it's a combination of all of these different products. I can still see the Lumiere highlight there on my lip, despite it being underneath everything else. It's really standing out and looking like I've got glitter on the top of my lip. I don't know if you can see that. I really don't like that. So even as an underpainting highlight in that area, it doesn't work. It works reasonably there, but it is a tricky one. And like I said, I think I might have even got some on my chin by accident somehow. So I'm going to go in with my Buffer Pro from Sonia G and my YSL finishing powder and go over the whole face to see how all of this looks with a bit of finishing powder. And that's the best I can do. That's the best that this can look. But I can tell you that using the Unreal Skin in the way that I did today, minus the stuff underneath, so just with a normal moisturising base and using it with concealer with none of that Mario creamy sort of watery bronzer underneath, I think it works really well actually. So that's my solution for that. Not very helpful if you bought it in the right shade, but if you haven't bought it and you do like the look of it and you're a bit worried, my advice would be to do exactly what I did and go up a shade, because if you match your shade it ends up being too light and too glowy. So it does give you a very quick immediate skin correction and a little bit of coverage and a pop of brightness really. It does lighten up the face. It's sort of a easy everyday makeup look, I would say. So I do quite like it, and I think I'll be using it for those days where I just, like today, when I'm just staying home or just popping in and out and not doing much, and I'm happy to just have a very sort of quick look with a bit of a glow. So there we are with finishing powder. I'm still looking very glowy. I do think a big part of that is this highlighter, which just spreads everywhere really. But anyway, that is the best I can manage with the worst makeup of 2024 in my opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts on everything I've tried today. Looking back on everything that's still a fail. This from Huda Beauty is definitely still a fail. It feels nice, it looks okay, it blurs until you put everything on top and you see zero difference, zero. So I don't see the point of it, and I won't be using this one again. 2 One Size products I mentioned but didn't try on, they are going to remain a fail because I've tried them too many times with too many disasters. I will never return to those, they just do not work on me. And the Mario Liquid Bronzer, it's not a fail, it's just an okay again, because you saw I had to put 3.5 pumps to get a sufficient amount for it to work as a bronzer. I still look a little bit too warm, so it's not cool enough. And if I put it on top, it just removes everything and it's too watery. So I say it's not a fail. It is really, isn't it? Because I can't see me ever returning to it underneath or above. It just doesn't work very nicely. So I don't know. Maybe it'll come in handy for something, but it's pretty much a fail in all honesty. And the Fenty concealer has completely redeemed itself. So maybe it was my fault for not hydrating under the eyes, because it looks absolutely perfect. It's not correcting though, so I definitely need a corrector. I can still see darkness under my eyes, so the coverage is minimal, but it worked very nicely, and it worked very nicely everywhere else on the face. So this is actually a really good concealer. In fact, I won't put it back in that box. I might even leave it on my desk and use it again this week. That's how much I'm happier with it. And then the Chanel Lumiere, again, I don't like this because it just seems to cause too much glitter all over my face. With the, I know I was generous in my application. It's okay. I mean, I think my cheeks look okay. And like I said, maybe if I wasn't using all these glowy products. I have actually tried this. I'm being unfair because I have tried this with normal products. If I was going in with a normal foundation that gives me a lot more coverage, the amount of glow that comes through from this is then just more perfect. But I definitely wouldn't put it here again. So it does work for that under painting glow, it does. But I just prefer a highlighter that I can put on top without worrying. So not my favourite of the year by any means. The Givenchy Prisme Libre is obviously a fail because the previous one was so much better. It's done a reasonable job, but you can see how glowy I am, so it hasn't taken away the glow. Whereas when I tried on the Charlotte Tilbury Unreal Skin the first time and plastered it all over my face, I was able to completely rescue my face using my setting powder, which I would be surprised if it wasn't the Givenchy at the time. I can't remember, but I bet it was. But I remember completely rescuing my face from the glow, and I have not rescued my face from the glow using this today. So it just shows that, if anything, this helps to emphasize it. So when I blame Unreal Skin on having emphasized lines here and here, I didn't think it looked too terrible with Unreal Skin. I think it's a combination of all these glowy products. So this is still a fail. Really upset about this one. and I'd much prefer to carry on using the new one from Makeup by Mario. And this eyeshadow palette is still the worst eyeshadow palette I've ever tried. I do not like it. This look is okay, fairly average, nothing special. It looks a bit better because I left this mustard out. If I include that, I look like I've been punched in the face, no matter how I do it, even if it's just a tiny little pop. I've tried every different way of applying this, recommended on the Chanel site, and nothing seems to work. This is my way of using it, and it's okay. And I think the highlighter probably saved it by giving me a little bit of a shine. I did put a little bit of the green, by the way, underneath, just a tiny bit. I did that off camera. But yeah, this is still a fail. I can't see me ever returning to this unless it was to do another video like this. So the Unreal Skin I've already talked about, and that's actually staying on my desk because I'm still going to carry on playing with that and finding different ways of using it. So I'm quite pleased I found a way to use it. I'm not going to say it's a favourite, but for a quick everyday look, it's starting to become something that I can add into my routine, which is good. And this from Natasha Denona, like I said, I don't hate this, it's just okay. It's a bit fiddly, a bit too gloopy, much better ones on the market in my opinion. So a bit of a disappointment this one, but not a massive fail. And I certainly will keep it here on my desk and use it because I do like to use these things just to add a bit of hydration. So I'll pop that in my sort of daily lip gloss, lip balm drawer over there. And the other thing was this YSL liquid blush, which redeemed itself quite a bit by the way it applied on top of powder, but still too fussy for me, so I can't see me reaching for it as much. If I'm looking for this particular shade of pink, then maybe I would, because obviously I can make it work. It does work with the underpainting method, and it does work on top of powder. You just have to be so careful to really blend it out on your hand, then bring the brush to it, blend it into the brush, then apply. For me, that's the only way I can use it, which is a little bit extra fussy when we have such good ones from places like Armani where you don't need to do it. So sort of semi-fail, but not, I don't hate it. I actually really love the way that the blush looks today. Not so much the glow that's going with it, but the blush. So anyway, that is everything. I would love to hear your thoughts on everything I've tried on today. Were any of these in your hit list? And have I changed your mind on them? Made you prefer them maybe? I think I've slightly changed my mind a little tiny bit on these, but not enough. They are still probably the trickiest, at least, that I've tried this year and had the most trouble with. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which product have you tried in 2024 that's giving you this amount of trouble? Did you buy something expecting to love it and it really disappointed you? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Or maybe you bought something, really didn't like it and completely changed your mind and now you love it. Because obviously that can happen the more you play around with things or find different ways of applying things. But anyway, that is all from me for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. It's so very helpful to me. And if you're already subscribed, you're at the end of one of my videos, and I appreciate you so very much. And I hope to see all of you again for my next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.